must pay attention to, and the word must be read in conjunction with its surrounding. The book which is written, book that has been displayed. One is you have to read. The other, that we have to reflect constantly. So the reading and listening, reading and reflection, reading with the surrounding, these are all part of the reading of the book, the Quran. Now, let us come and reflect another thing. How the Quran describes. It is not surprising that a verse in the Quran, if you call it a verse, again it is a very poor way of communicating, verse. If you reflect on those verse, it's called ayah. Ayah means sign. It's not sentence. Sometimes in the Quran, one ayah includes several sentences. And sometimes even one word is ayah. So this ayah, the sign, is also referring to the word which is kitabun mastur and word without kitabun manshur that you see in the surroundings. Connection between the two is sign. Sign of your time, sign of your age, sign of your existence, sign of your struggle. These are the areas that we need to reflect, we need to work. One is invited to observe the daily life circles of human beings and nature. Now here again, I'd like to invite you. The word ibadah comes very interestingly, daily life. If you do everyday life properly within the framework of Islam, this daily routine of everyday life becomes that becomes ibadah. And this is what has been there. But above all, the word, the speech itself invites constant reflection. Not only of what you are reading right now, but also the world you are observing in nature, one cannot separate. The book of nature or the phenomena of nature from the unwritten words that communicates constantly in the existence of daily life of your nature is your survival, your existence, your reading, etc. But constantly invites you to read without providing a written text. There is a written text that has been provided, but there is an unwritten text around you, which you need to read and listen what is going on, and see and reflect. This emblematic communique is a marker, a sign or a pointer towards the one who commanded us to read. An ayah is not a sentence. In some cases, in one ayah, as I say it would be. It would not be out of place to highlight the reading also includes the reading of sign of history, the past. And this is where I will turn to my second part of my reflection. I would like to highlight Surah Al Imran, verses 133 to 139. These verses are deep. Now, let me give you some slight background of that. These verses falls under the group of verses that revealed against the backdrop of Battle of Badr. Now, if you look at it is shown that Allah helps the virtuous and how patience and perseverance and discipline of a small group of people been rewarded. A small band. Today, the surroundings that we are living in an age of different dimension of media, with various levels of media, various attack on Islam and etc. Some of ours also our doings. But do not be disheartened. That's the message these verses gives you. These verses are telling you there were a time when the small band of people of 313 changed the history. And that is the part that we need to reflect. Before I read the verses, I'd like to highlight the context of these. As I said, verses 133, 139 falls under those verses between 121 and 148 that is revealed against the backdrop of Badr. Here it shows how Allah helps the virtuous and how patience, perseverance, and discipline with a small group of people been rewarded. A nascent Muslim community is struggling to survive. They have left their homeland, the place they were born, place they have struggled to exist. They have to leave. And when they left, it has gone through the most arduous and torturous experience of 13-14 years of history. A safe place has been found. But did the enemy were happy that they have gone? No. They pursued this small nascent Muslim community. In a constant pursuit of destruction of the community was the purpose. If you feel you are safe today, we have a lesson. The small lesson, a small band of people, how they survive odds. Finally, in a battle, Muslims not only survive, but also become victorious. Now, this is the first part of Medina. The struggle is deep. The struggle is painful. Relentless pursuit of the small Muslim community. They knew that the small Muslim community, if they survive, they will win over the whole peninsula. And therefore, it is in their interest to crush it. And the lessons that I like to draw is these ones. That despite of all these things, what it says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وسارعوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها السماوات والأرض أعدت للمتقين الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس. And every time I read this, it stuns me. You can't be but stunned. The relentless enemy was following you, bloodthirsty, after you. And Quran commands, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, hold your anger and forgive all of them. What a command. What a responsibility. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. It is so serious. You should not be angry. You should not be depressed. It didn't stop there. It says, anger, hold your anger. And the next sentence, next word, forgive them all. Not the Muslims, everyone. And I will come back to you in a few minutes, another verse which stuns me after reading these things. Now what is that? Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. This is the ihsan that you do, muhsinin that you do. It is so, so, so precious. Surah Yusuf, in the 5 crucial moments of Surah Yusuf, Allah Ta'ala talks about muhsinin. I found him amongst the muhsinin. It is so important. So the first ayah, let me read the meaning, translation. And raise to forgiveness from your Lord, and a paradise the extent of which is as the heavens and the earth, prepared for those who fear Allah. No matter what happened, here is the huge expanse of heaven and earth. I am in charge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I know the history. I change the history. What you are going through is small. If you reflect who is behind you, who is standing by you, who is with you, you will win. You will overcome all these difficulties. And this is the message for today. We should be much more trusting. Iyaka na'budu, as Shaykh says on the other day in the Jummah khutbah. Only that takes from him. And again, the eternal command, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. Then comes, let me read that verse translation. Those who spend in the way of Allah in prosperity and adversity. Spending is not something that when I have. Spending is also when I don't have. What minimal I have a share to give. And this is also a very interesting responsibility. Restrain your anger and are forgiving towards mankind. Allah loves those who excel in goodness. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ ذِكْرُوا اللَّهَ فَاسْتَغْفِرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَلَمْ يَصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. Again, and those who when they do an evil thing or wrong themselves, remember Allah and seek forgiveness, because He is the master of eternity. Past, present, and future ends in Him. And therefore, it is eternal, unthinkable command that He has. So you need to think those things are very essential, central. Allah seeks forgiveness for their sins. Who can forgive sins save Allah alone? Who will forgive? And do not knowingly persist in whatever wrong they have done. Ask forgiveness and don't repeat constantly. Don't make a habit of it. This is what he is saying. أُولَٰئِكَ جَزَاؤُهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ وَجَنَّاتٌ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا وَنِعْمَ أَجْرُ الْعَامِلِينَ. Again, these shall be rewarded with forgiveness from their Lord and gardens beneath which rivers flow, where they shall dwell forever. Blessed is the reward of those who labor, those who work towards that. قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ سُنَنٌ فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Many a way of life has passed away before you. What he is saying, Allah is reminding us, this is not something happened in the history for the first time. 21st century of Muslims are facing something it didn't happen for the first time. And also the people at the time of Badr, Allah is reminding them it didn't happen for the first time. It happened before. So, travel in the land and see what was the end of those who disbelieved. Don't worry, I am the part of the past and the present and the future. I know what I know. So, Just go and travel around and see what I have done to destruction of those who didn't believe, destruction of those who done that. هذا بيان للناس وهدى وموعظة للمتقين. This is an exposition for mankind and a guidance and admonitions for those who fear Allah. But then the verse comes again in a soothing manner to the Muslims, people who has been disheartened, people who suffered, those who gone through all sorts of problems. Here comes the soothing words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Be not faint-hearted, nor grieve, for you will overcome them if you are true believers. Condition is clear. Is the current situation we should be worried about? Yes, you must plan, do whatever you can. That is the responsibility of yours. But it should not shackle you. It should not shackle you of today's context. You must overcome. And the center of all this is the loving, caring God and believe in Him. That is what taqwa is. This is what taqwa is rewarded and demanded from each and every one of us. Not to be distracted from your objective, what you are doing. You see, sometimes test comes. Sometimes many tribulations comes. This century, this time, you and I are facing a challenge that demands that we should be firmly rooted in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and yet as the Quran demands, وَالْقَاذِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. Hold your anger, first condition. Second, forgive them. This is the challenge that we are going through. Here, this whole theme of these things is also, but soon this joy disappears, and 149 to 180 of Surah verses of Al Imran returns to Uhud. One battle is just finished, another is started. One mourning and suffering has not gone through, not passed through, another is at the doorstep, asking you to come. And here again, just imagine, dominant theme of this section is also forgiveness, spending in the way of Allah, and reward and forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When I read these verses, Allah is addressing me and you to go and see how the mightiest has fallen because of their disbelief. These four because of their injustice. And let us reflect little what are the Quranic values are and what we need to instill in us and itself. Let me also come to another ayah of this. Out of this, only one ayah I like to come to. And here comes the responsibility of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every time you will come across this ayah, you will see the burden of the prophethood. Now, just imagine the surrounding. Surrounding is Battle of Badr, Uhud, poverty. And the third category that emerged, munafiqun, internal enemy and external enemy. And Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam dealing with all these things and still maintaining that aspect of forgiveness, the wide inclusiveness we have seen through Misaq Medina. And all those inclusiveness we can see. But here comes the prophetic responsibility what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts on him. This is ayah 159, same Al Imran. It says, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَزًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَا نَفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. After all these things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, first, the character of the Prophet has been highlighted. Saying, look who you are. You are a forgiving person. You are mercy. It is the mercy of Allah that you were tender with them, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For if you had been stern and hard-hearted, they would have dispersed from around you, as have gone. But then the second part is so important. Every time I read a shiva, this is the responsibilities that's been asked to, is saying, okay, forgive them, involve them in your mushawara, in your consultation, and seek forgiveness of Allah for them. Take counsel with them in the conduct of affairs. And when you take a decision, then put your trust in Allah. Indeed, Allah loves that. It's not simply that you forgive them. Yes, there is another stage, the Prophet. After all this painful suffering and fight, you have been asked, consult those people again, involve them again, and forgive them. These are the shivering part that what are really the challenging ministry that in English what you call is of the prophethood. So there are very verses later, 9:15. Every time I read this verse, it really emphasizes the office of the Prophet Muhammad. How a battle was lost, a battle which was almost won. That was because of indiscipline of some of the people. Cowardice act of the munafiqun. This is the third category that emerged in Medina. But the most important thing is that comes through from this verse. So Allah is saying to the Prophet, the people who did utmost to destroy you by withdrawing in the last minute, be careful. But the people who are around you who have done some mistakes, they left the hilltop, there should be consulting. So there were many mistakes has been done, asking them, forgive them, and constantly consult in future relationship. Acted and deliberated to inflict pain or demolitions. Let me come to my second part. This is the completion of second part. The third and final part I would like to reflect in general. And here comes my predicament. And this is the general reflection I like to do. And I will invite you to think what I'm saying. You may agree, may disagree, but let us listen to. While the verses that we have reflected upon are focused on the forgiveness, we are going through a period of instant trial and tribulations, but also doubt and also suspicion, etc. But look at the tribulation of the Prophet and his companions and the Badr and Uhud. A period of survival of the small band of Muslims was under constant attack. All those things were fine. But I would like to reflect on what are the Quranic values. I have asked my students who happen to be well educated in Islamic sciences, I asked them, please help me that whenever I read these 5 pillars of Islam, but if you look at these 5 pillars only, then you miss the point. And every time I see these 5 pillars mentioned without the reflection on those 5 pillars, what is the purpose of this? As if I'm standing in an archaeological site. 5 pillars are the Roman 5 pillars. Because these 5 pillars hold Quranic values. This is what the 5 pillars prepares you. Those 4 major Quranic values, what I think, what I have read, what I could understand, there may be many, but I like to focus on those 4. And they said, no idea, never thought about it. Those 4 Quranic values are Rahmah. Kataba ala nafsihi al-Rahmah. Allah has ordained on himself mercy. Maghfirah, which we have gone through. Adl and Ihsan. These are the 4 Quranic values you should prepare. These 5 pillars hold this big mansion building on those 5 pillars. It prepares you that every day's life and struggle. If your 5 times prayer is becoming intensely not merciful, not forgiving, not just, go back, reflect whether we are really addressing those 5 pillars properly. I think these are the 5 pillars we need to reflect that these holds Rahmah, Maghfirah, Adl, and Ihsan. These structures are there to hold those. In today's prevalent mindset of us, there is a disconnect, and I know with my personal experience, disconnects between ibadat and muamalat. People think giving zakat, praying 5 times, Hajj, constant umrah, come back, cheat, and this morning's reflection in Fajr, because he's a non-Muslim doesn't matter, let us not pay his rent. This muamalat, you will find among people ibadat and muamalat disconnected. As there is a disconnect which I do not want to dwell now, Iman and Jihad. So here is the disconnect between ibadat and muamalat. God of Allah, God of Muslims has become an accountant God. If you do X amount of work, you will get 50,000 sawab. And once you calculate your balance sheet, you have earned enough reward, you have now guaranteed yourself in Jannah. And to the extent that you are prepared to fight with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that my calculation and your calculation is wrong. As if this Allah is sitting there in calculator machine. Do this 70 times, do this one act, 70 times you will get rewarded. Yes, you will reward it. But that is not the purpose. This is the encouragement. You have to establish in yourself and our family just, merciful justice, adl and ihsan. We are becoming escapist. We are looking for Allah's favor, sawab, but our perspective of Allah is an accountant God. If you do X amount of nafil, you will get an X amount of reward. When the niyyah and the dealing with the people matters, is completely different. You will do exactly the opposite. What's the point of collecting these reward points? I'm not sure whether in your case it happens, but if you go to shopping malls, you shop somewhere, you have a club card, and you'll be reward card. And you have now come back and you will get reward for that. Somehow we are making our faith, our religion shrinking to that part. Another point which I like to highlight, when you look at the seerah, there is one thing which is so central to Islamic ethos. Even in adverse situation, dignity of a human being was never compromised, restored. And therefore, the Muslims today, you have to assure that we will never compromise on dignity of human, does not matter who that person is. This karamna bani Adam, ikram of bani Adam, at all cost, you have to do it. It is not human rights, it is human dignity that we need to restore. Rights comes later. At all cost, the dignity of human has been asked to do. Prisoners of Badr, we know how Prophet was hurt when some people start feeling pain in prison. So I don't want to repeat all those incidents. These Quranic values tell us, as a Muslim, pain of my neighbor is also pain of my own. This neighborhood is absolutely essential. That we do not discard at a Muslim or non-Muslim neighbor. He is a human being, he is my responsibility. Unless we are connected, concerned about the well-being of our fellow human beings, our own faith remains incomplete. One incident which reminds me a very important incident. Maulana Sajjad Nomani, one of the renowned alim of India, in the recent event of Gujarat massacre. In India, Gujarat is a province where the Muslims were massacred because they were Muslims. Their villages were burned down, areas were burned. So Sajjad Nomani was saying that I was concerned why it happened. So he went to that place and quietly, through intermediaries, he invited a person who was the ringleader of the burning of Muslim houses. He gave assurance that I will not do anything to you, I will not take you to court, nothing. I just want to listen from you what you have done to these Muslims. Why? And this is the very important part. What he said. So Sajjad Nomani remarks, he came in the middle of the night, hiding, covering his face. He came to in his hotel, sat with two other people, and he said the story, there's a big mosque here, huge, beautiful mosque. His neighborhood is extremely poor Hindu neighborhood. We know Mercedes, expensive cars comes to mosque, and they have lots of events, and they can't eat their food, they throw outside in faces of us. They never took care of us. And when some rascals, he realizes, came, he instigated us, the last 10, 20, 30 years of anger vented in that way. Because the mosque was not helping them at all, and it was rather pompously displaying its power and authority. There's a lesson from that. I have asked one of my groups of students the last 4 years, tell me, are our mosques places of hope? Let's ask this question to all of us, ourselves. Are our mosques places of hope? Last 4 years, there's not a single student that I come said yes. Will the neighborhood will run towards you for help? No. Will they come to you if they have any dispute? No. Will they come to you for help and support? No. They will run away from the mosque. First thing they will do. Are these places, are the mosques places of hope? We need to ask that question ourselves. And your answer of your da'wah, answer of your activities amongst the non-Muslims and Muslims is the test cause. Is the 5 times prayers of holding the Quranic values? Are the mosques of the hope? If not, that is our test case, our test of da'wah. You can't go outside, bring people in, and within 10 days they become frustrated. We bring the non-Muslims, become Islam, and holding them as a victory shield. Here was a Christian, I win them. 3 weeks later, they dump him. Do they care about what this person has gone through? In Indian context, there are people who left their homes. They were highly educated men and women, left their home, married to a Muslim, hoping this Muslim is Islam's follower. Later, she realized this is a story, a true story. She was highly academic, university professor. She was beaten up by this man. After 2 children, she abandoned her. And now she says, where I will go? My family has disowned me. My husband has disowned me. My community doesn't want me to enter the mosque. Doesn't want me to enter into any other Muslim community place. I have to have an intermediary to reach, for seeking of help. How can I go and where should I go? Tell me. Some brothers are helping her and many others like them. But this is an increasing problem. So in this island of Trinidad, our future is interconnected with our neighbor. If this island sinks, we will sink with it. It will not save you. So the island of Trinidad, island of England, and all these Caribbean islands cannot have exclusivity of Muslims. Our future is interconnected, and our existence is also interconnected. We make sure the mosques are places of hope. We make sure that every 5 times of prayer, we remind ourselves, rahmah, maghfirah, adl, and ihsan. Thank you very much.
So, we do have time, inshallah, for some questions from the brothers and sisters. So, anything that you would like to ask, inshallah, Brother Dr. Atala is here too.
Or you have a comment?
Which means that we've understood everything, alhamdulillah.
You've got 5 minutes now.
Okay, so yes, Ramba, Freeman.
When we do research, we run across sources that are non-Muslim. How do you sort of control or kind of get an idea what sources are reliable in their writings, especially from non-Muslim writers? And if you look at their methodology, or what methodology would you use to sort of qualify them as someone or a group of people that
How many of you have any idea how many books are for deaf? Do you know anything?
Thousands. Thousands.
Deaf. For deaf sign speakers, deaf. We don't have anything, but I'll give you one example. This young man who is deaf, can't speak, can't listen. No books, nothing. He has his character, his heart to relate to the non-Muslims. And in his hands, dozens of people accepted Islam, including who were speakers. Somebody I know who came to interpret his lecture, he became Muslim. This is England, right? So what is the first thing we need to do is deeper friendship. Friendship should lead to the reading. And that is the most durable relationship that we develop. That's one thing. We push through the literature on the door, and then we think we have done our work. Pushing literature is not enough. Putting yourself in their shoes, in their pain, in their things, their concerns, walking with them in their suffering, in their joy is equally important. And I believe my own experience of many years has showed me that there were many people who accepted Islam during these periods were largely motivated by individuals' action, good behavior, good character. That is the first thing that overcomes all television newspapers, nothing. One more example I will give you, recent one. One of our colleagues, some former colleagues, told this couple were my students, both of them. They said that they wanted to have an extension of their house. They tendered any invitation, anything. So the tender came. They accepted one tender. It is from an English white man. So the white man comes, enters, and sees this woman is in hijab. He becomes, his heart pumping. He entered Muslim house. Now what they are going to do to me? He enters there, he discusses all the quotation, extension, everything. This is how I will do, this is how I will do, everything. He goes back, he says to his wife, I'm a bit worried. I have entered a Muslim house. And the woman was wearing this scarf. And the woman says, but what do you think? Are they safe? And he said, yeah. Looks, they are safe, very nice people. Then go and work them. So they started working. He brought his own people. And he built the whole thing. Final day, when the signature was signed, payment has been done, he narrated this story, which I like to communicate to you. He said, when I came here and found that a Muslim, I was shaking. I didn't know how you were going to treat to me and how I'm going to be. That's number one. Number two, I belong to a group, we hate Muslims. And let me tell you my inner heart, inner thing. I wish I could have a button. I just press and this world, Muslims disappears from the world. This is my wish. But working with you changed me. Working with you changed my community. One family. I went back and said, look, every time they attack Muslim, I said, they are not, all are not like that. They are very good people. Now, after this 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of experience, I defend Muslims. This is the one simple. What we do not do is really putting our heart to my non-Muslim friends. We start giving dawah, become Muslim, become Muslim, become Muslim. Resentment comes to it. You just say how I can help you, how I can share with you, what is your pain and things. Then the conversation begins. Then the non-Muslim starts asking you questions. Then you start, don't push books. Give the things. This is my reaction, my experience on those things. Thank you very much.
Can I just say something? Bismillah. There are many Muslims here and we are all talented. And based on the background that you were talking, I have thought to suggest that when I'm here in Trinidad, I want to do something for somebody in Trinidad, whether he was a Muslim or not. If he wants a fence fixed, if he wants a sink on his house, if he wants to plant a little garden, if he wants a yard cut, or if there is an old people home where there is something that we can fix, or something that can be done, that I can say I came to Trinidad, I'm eating their food, they're treating me so nice, it's a lovely country, but can I do something?
Yeah.
And then it is quite possible there might be other Muslims here who could do something. We've had it in probably every country in the world, that a church group would come, they would go to a village, they would cut the grass, they build a house, they take a teeth, they would do something for the babies, they would do, and they are religious people and they are professional, and they will do something in that area. There's a lot of Muslims here. Can the organizers say if there is some Muslims who are around for a half day or a quarter day, find something that maybe we can do while they are here in Trinidad? I would be interested to do anything for any Muslim. Wash their car, do something, do something, do something. I don't want to leave Trinidad and I didn't do something back home because you all are doing a lot for me. So that is my little contribution, inshallah.
Brother Sabir?
I think that we Muslims, alhamdulillah, are blessed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us an opportunity every day from time.
Brother Sabir, if you come here, inshallah, we can hear you better.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. As I was saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been very kind to us Muslims. From the time we wake up until the time we go to bed, He has given us an opportunity to be a Muslim. With our neighbors, we need to display how our being a Muslim. With our children's teachers, with our friends, with our workmates. In other words, even during the month of Ramadan, and I believe that for me, I find this to be a fantastic opportunity, especially when we are fasting. Our non-Muslim friends would ask us, what are you doing? And I think that, we need to take an opportunity at all times, on every occasion, to tell our non-Muslim friends about Islam. And you don't have to use the word Islam. Our action, A, and 2, there is always a way on how we can impart the way of Islam. Even when talking about how we fast, yes, you're given, in other words, look for an opportunity at all times from sunrise until sunset. How can you impart, A, by action and by education to your non-Muslim what Islam is all about? That's in a jest. Thank you. Jazakallah.
One small clarification. I have used the term non-Muslims in this company, but in many cases, if you attend some bigger gathering where there are other faith communities, using the term non-Muslims, they seems to be negative. What they may like to use is probably people of other faiths, other communities. So this is my experience in some cases, that they didn't like the term non-Muslim. I have used today, but this is the case. But I don't know how it's the Trinidadian custom is.
Okay, inshallah. Okay, inshallah. So we'll end there, and what we'll do now is that we'll take a 15-minute break, inshallah, and then we will resume for the next session. So if it is that you are just a bit dozing off, this is a time for you to refresh yourself, inshallah.